The drought had killed everything. The river was dust, the cattle were skeletons, and the sun was a hammer.
This is it, Lucas. One bucket between us and nothing. We ration, or we die.
He knelt beside the mare. Her ribs were sharp under his hand. The revolver came out, his finger tightened on the trigger. The barrel pressed against her skull. Then her head lifted. Her cloudy eye opened, fixed on the west.
What the hell, Vieja? Stop. Where are you going?
She struggled upright, legs trembling like dead grass. Then she took a step toward the mountains.
Abuelo? She'll die out there. We can't lose her.
Stephen let the gun fall. It hit the dirt, and he rose to follow. Lucas stood alone with the last bucket of water. The mare walked west, and Stephen walked after her into the cursed earth. Stephen trudged behind the mare across the endless cracked earth, his boots kicking up dust that had once been river mud.
Isabel would have called me a fool for following a dying horse into the dead heart of this valley.
A small voice cut through the heat. Lucas was running after them, the wooden pail sloshing its last mouthfuls.
Abuelo, wait. Please, don't leave me. The water's almost gone, and I am scared.
Stephen turned. The boy was sprinting, the pail swinging nearly dry.
I won't stay behind alone. If you are going after her, I am going too, no matter what.
He looked into the pail. The water barely covered the bottom, less than 2 swallows left.
Then we move faster. Vieja knows something. I can't explain it, but I feel it in my bones.
They walked in silence. The only sound, the mare's labored breathing and the crunch of their boots. The water pail swung empty at Lucas's side, and the sun hung over them like a closing fist. They passed the ruins of the Valdez place. A collapsed roof, a child's shoe baked into the clay. Inside the wreckage, a framed photograph lay cracked. A woman's smile, frozen before the drought. Stephen remembered the night they loaded their wagon. The last thing they heard was the wind.
Abuelo, where is she taking us? There's nothing out here but death.
I don't know, boy, but she hasn't faltered once. An animal with a purpose is more than a compass.
Vieja never paused. Her head stayed low, her pace steady, as if she could already hear what they couldn't.
I can't feel my tongue anymore. If we don't find water soon...
Don't say it. Look ahead. There's a fence line. Vieja is heading right for it.
A barbed wire fence cut across the horizon, rusty and twisted, with a weathered sign hanging crooked. The mare aimed for a gap where the wire had snapped, a place no human would notice. The fence bore a sign, its faded letters still legible. Propiedad privada no pasi.
That's William's land. I helped his father build this fence 40 years ago. We're not supposed to cross.
Vieja didn't pause. She pushed through the snapped wire, her bony shoulders scraping the rust.
She's not stopping, Abuelo. Are we really following her onto a rich man's land?
If that horse knows water, and it's on his land, I'll carry the sin of trespassing.
Stephen bent low and crawled through the gap, the wire catching his shirt like a warning. On the other side, the world changed. Green pasture rolled toward a whitewashed ranch house and a spinning windmill. A quarter-mile uphill, a figure stood with arms crossed, a dark silhouette against the green.
Who is that? Is he watching us?
Stephen pulled them behind a weathered fence post, his heart hammering. The mare kept walking, invisible to the man above.
That's William. His father died 10 years back, but he kept every fence post straight and his heart cold. Don't move, Lucas. That man would shoot a trespasser before asking a name.
William walked the fence line like a man counting his money, pausing every 50 feet to test a wire. Before the drought, Stephen had sat at this man's table, shared bootleg whiskey, traded labor. Now, the green on his land felt like a wound.
When the river died, he stopped answering his gate. Wouldn't share a cup of water with a dying child.
Then why are we here, Abuelo? If he catches us, we're dead.
William turned and walked back toward the house, tugging his hat low against the wind.
Now, follow Vieja. Keep low. She hasn't stopped, and neither do we.
They scrambled up a dry slope of loose rock, the mare's hooves clicking ahead like a metronome. Behind a boulder, they stopped. William's house shrank into a white speck, and the mare disappeared around a ledge. They rounded the ledge, and the mare was already climbing a steep defile of shattered rock. Stephen's hand brushed a groove in the stone, a dry channel, perfectly straight, too deliberate to be natural.
This isn't a crack. Someone chiseled this into the mountain. A channel for something. But for what and why hide it up here?
Lucas stumbled, and the empty pail clattered against the rock like a gunshot.
Sorry, Abuelo. I tripped. I am sorry.
Quiet, boy. Get down and don't make a sound.
They pressed flat against the rock, hearts pounding, listening for a shout or a gunshot. Nothing came. Vieja never turned. She kept climbing, her hooves scraping a rhythm that pulled them forward.
She's not stopping for danger or doubt. We follow.
The valley below them looked like a sepia photograph of every life that had dried up and blown away. Still no water. 40 years ago, he'd helped William's father fence this peak. The old man swore there was only rock, but the fence curved around the mountain, never across it.
Abuelo, Vieja is clawing the rock like she's gone mad. She'll break her leg.
Her hoof slammed the granite, over and over, stone shards flying. She stared at something beneath.
That channel led here. She's trying to speak to us.
Can you see water? Is it under there?
Number. But I've never seen her fight like this. Not when she was dying.
He knelt, steadying her side. Her hoof had worn a shallow bowl in the stone. The rock inside was slick with fine dust, as if water had polished it for centuries.
Water shaped this mountain long before the fences, long before the drought.
But it was dry now. No trickle, no spring. Only a memory trapped in stone. Stephen's fingers traced the edge where Vieja's hoof had broken the rock's skin. A hairline crack ran deep, darker than the stone.
That crack isn't natural. It's a seam. Something sealed it.
He jammed his fingers into the crack and pulled. A slab shifted, grating like a tomb door.
Help me, Lucas. Push here. Hard.
The boy threw his weight against the stone. Together they heaved, and it tilted. From the blackness beneath, a single drop of water swelled, hung, and fell onto the dry rock.
Water? Abuelo, it's real?
Stephen clawed at the edges, dislodging smaller rocks. The trickle thickened to a thin, cold stream.
This is the source. The channel down there was meant to carry this away.
They cupped their hands under the flow. It was icy, clean, and tasted like the beginning of the world. Stephen dug until his nails bled, widening the gap. The stream grew from a trickle to a gush that filled the pail in seconds.
We're not going to die, Abuelo. Not today. Not ever again.
Vieja lowered her head and drank without hurry, as if she'd known this water would be waiting for 60 years. Stephen picked up the stone that had capped it. One side was dark with old sealant, cut clean with a chisel.
Someone sealed this on purpose. Not a rock slide. A man's hand and a chisel. Lucas, this spring was hidden. Not lost, hidden. Someone wanted this water for themselves while the valley baked.
Who would do that? Who could watch people die and still lock up the water?
The spring poured out enough for 50 families, enough to turn the valley green. But Stephen no longer felt joy, only a cold, rising fury.
This stone came from a quarry on William's land. I know it. I helped his father haul them 40 years ago.
Water splashed over his boots, but he didn't move. The discovery had turned into a crime scene, and the dead above were suddenly witnesses. Stephen followed the stream downhill a few yards, where the ground felt soft and hollow under his boots. He kicked aside a layer of gravel and exposed a rusted metal pipe, half buried, running straight toward William's green pastures.
The pipe is old, but the joints are sealed. A man did this, thinking no one would ever look.
What is it, Abuelo? Why is there a pipe in the ground?
This pipe carries water from the spring to the green fields. Someone put it here to steal.
He traced the pipe's path, and in his mind he saw every drop that should have saved the valley flowing to fatten cattle.
You mean William's father did this? All those people died because he hid the water?
It ends today. I am going to that house. I'll make him face what his family did.
Lucas stepped forward, but Stephen raised his hand. He couldn't risk the boy being caught in what came next. He started down the slope toward the ranch, leaving Lucas with the mare. The stream gurgled behind him, an accusation. Stephen reached the whitewashed house as the afternoon sun burned his neck. William sat on the porch, cleaning a rifle.
I found your father's spring, William. The stone, the pipe, I saw it all.
You are on my land, old man. That's a bullet offense, not a conversation.
Stephen held up the sealant-caked stone. William's eyes flickered, but his mouth curved into a sneer.
A rock? You crossed my fence for a rock? Get off before I put you off.
Stephen felt the rifle barrel come up. He didn't flinch. The truth was heavier than any bullet.
That spring belongs to the valley. Your father killed us all.
William laughed, a cold bark. Then he stood and pointed toward the fence.
You've got nothing, no proof, no witnesses, just a crazy horse and an empty pail. Now walk.
Stephen turned his back and walked. The laughter followed him up the mountain. He needed more than a stone, he needed the law, the original survey. By firelight at the spring, Stephen's thoughts drifted back to his father and the old days when the whole valley was still open.
My father was a surveyor. In 1898, he mapped every spring in this valley, and I held the compass.
A memory surfaced. The chestnut foal drinking from this very spring before barbed wire carved up the mountain.
The spring was on his map, circled in red, Manantial Communal. It belonged to everyone.
Are you sure, Abuelo? If that paper exists, can it really tear down William's fences?
It was written into the land grant. If the survey still exists in the town records, William has no defense. At first light we go to town. We'll find that map, or we'll stay until the walls fall.
What about Vieja? We can't leave her alone on William's land.
She brought us to water once. She'll guard it until we return. We'll be back before William thinks to look.
They carried full pails down the mountain, leaving Vieja standing over the water she had remembered for 40 years. The records office was a dust-choked room behind the courthouse, stacked with crumbling binders that smelled of a dying century.
Look through the land grant files, Lucas. Find any map with a spring. My father's hand was sharp, you'll know it.
Hours later, a yellowed sheet unfolded in his hands. A red circle bled through the parchment, and the words Manantial Communal stared up at him.
There it is. The spring was communal since the land grant of 1842. William's father erased it.
He borrowed a camera and photographed every line, every seal. The flashbulb echoed like a gunshot in the silent room.
We have enough proof. Now we find a lawyer and file before William can bury this.
Stephen glanced through the grimy window. Two men in dusty hats leaned against a truck, their eyes fixed on the records office.
William's men. He knew we'd come. He's been waiting.
How do we get past them? They'll see us leave.
Stephen shoved the photographs into his shirt and pulled Lucas through a back door. They vanished into the alleys before the men could stir. In a borrowed dark room, Stephen developed the photographs himself. The survey appearing in the chemical bath like a buried truth rising. The only lawyer in town had an office above the feed store. He studied the survey and went pale.
The original survey shows the spring marked Manantial Communal. William's father walled it off in 1908.
The lawyer tapped the red circle and warned, if authenticated, William's claim would collapse, but he would fight dirty.
I've already been threatened with a rifle. I won't be silenced.
He signed the complaint without hesitation, then paid the filing fee with the last of his savings. The lawsuit was filed that afternoon. The news ran through the valley faster than a brush fire. Outside, the two men in dusty hats were still watching. Stephen stared back at them and didn't look away. Lucas squeezed his hand. They had declared war on the only man with water, and there was no turning back.
Now we wait for the court. But first, we go back to Vieja. She started this fight, and she deserves to see it end.
William's truck ground to a halt at the spring. He stepped out holding a thick envelope, his boots pressing deep into the mud.
300 pesos. Enough to walk away. Drop the suit and forget you ever saw this spring.
You think I can forget Rosalia Valdez, who died with her mouth full of sand? Forget for money.
I'll fight you until your name is nothing. The court is bought, old man. You've already lost.
Then I'll lose with the truth in my hand. That's more than you've ever held.
I'll bury you in that survey. I'll bury your grandson. This was your last chance.
Lucas stood in the doorframe of the adobe, his small fist shaking. He'd never seen his grandfather stand so still, so unbreakable.
Take your money back to your side of the fence. Every drop that comes out of this mountain belongs to the valley now.
William threw the envelope into the mud, then turned and climbed back into his truck without a word. The envelope lay there, the peso notes bleeding ink into the wet earth. Stephen didn't pick it up. The war was now certain. The night before the trial, Stephen woke to the sound of wires snapping in the distance, a clean, sharp, deliberate cut. He and Lucas grabbed a lantern and ran uphill. Near the spring, the fence gap had been widened, and fresh rocks plugged the spring's mouth. Together, they heaved the rocks aside with bleeding hands, and the water burst free again, black in the lantern glow.
He sent his men in the dark. Tomorrow he'll bury us with lawyers and lies. I am not sure we can win this, boy.
Abuelo, the spring doesn't belong to William. It never did. Vieja knew, and now we know. That's enough.
Stephen stared at the boy. The words struck deeper than any threat. He pulled Lucas close and didn't let go.
He is right. The truth is ours. No pesos can seal this spring again.
They sat awake until dawn, guarding the spring, the water singing its steady promise.
No more looking back. Today we walk into that courtroom and make the valley whole again.
Lucas nodded, picking up the pail, now full. The trial would start in 2 hours, and Stephen felt ready for the first time. The courtroom smelled of sweat. Stephen took the stand in his dusty shirt, the survey clutched in his hand. He spread the photographs and the original survey. The paper crackled like dry leaves. The judge pulled the survey close and traced the red circle with a finger.
My father surveyed this valley. The spring is marked Menantial communal water, not one man's property.
William's lawyer jumped up, calling Stephen a trespasser with a grudge and a dying horse. His knuckles went white on the rail. He stared only at the judge.
He can tear at my name, but the paper doesn't lie.
The judge lifted the survey to the light, examining the watermark and seal. The room fell silent. Stephen felt 40 years hanging in that breath. The judge set the document down. I will need time to authenticate. Ruling reserved. The gavel fell. 3 days later, the court reconvened. The survey was authenticated. Stephen sat rigid in the front row. The judge's voice cut through. This court finds the spring to be communal property under state water law. William's face drained. He gripped the table, knuckles white, but said nothing. The court ordered the fences removed within 7 days. Failure would mean contempt and arrest. Stephen walked out into a roar. Families who had fled the valley had returned, waiting for the verdict. Lucas broke through the crowd and threw his arms around Stephen. The boy's face was wet, but he laughed.
We did it, boy. She led us, and we didn't stop. Now the valley can breathe again.
Old men wept openly. Women lifted their children to see the man who brought water back. At sunset, Stephen and Lucas started toward the mountain, toward the one who had started it all. Tomorrow, the fence posts would come down. Tonight, the spring still flowed, and that was enough. At dawn, a crew of workers arrived with heavy bolt cutters, the court order nailed to a fence stake.
40 years of wire, and it falls in an hour. She knew it would come to this.
The wire sang as it snapped. Each cut echoed across the valley like a bell, announcing peace. A worker unscrewed the sign that had marked William's land forbidden for 4 decades. They dismantled the diversion pipe, and the spring's water poured downhill for the first time in 40 years.
Abuelo, it's reaching the old riverbed. The valley's going to live again.
Vieja drank from the spring, her cloudy eye calm, as if she had never doubted. By noon, the first wagon rolled in. The Miranda family, thin but smiling, waved from the seat.
Welcome home. The water belongs to everyone now.
Behind them, more wagons appeared through the dust, and Green was already pushing up through the cracks. Within a month, 23 families had returned. The cracked earth vanished under a carpet of new green. Stephen pressed a willow sapling into the mud near the spring. Its first roots drank free water.
Look, Abuelo, I am not carrying the pail alone anymore.
The spring became a gathering place again, horses pushing their muzzles into the water side by side. From the ridge, Stephen watched a single truck pull away from the whitewashed house, heading east. The cattle pens were empty. He never walked toward that gate again. The willow would grow, and that was answer enough. The revolver stayed holstered on the porch post. Gathering dust never needed again. The water carved new veins across the valley floor, and where it touched, life answered.
Look at this valley, Lucas. She gave it back to us.
And through it all, the old chestnut mare stood by the spring, as if she had been waiting for her valley to come home. A new wooden sign was planted beside the spring, Menancio Communal, with a simple drawing of a horse. Every morning, Vieja walked down to drink, and the children raced to touch her dusty mane.
You remembered for 40 years. Vieja, through the wire, through the drought, you never forgot.
He pressed his forehead to her neck, and she stood utterly still, as if accepting the weight of every word.
She saved us. Not the survey, not the court. A blind old mare with more memory than the whole valley.
The willow grew taller each season, and the spring never faltered, no matter the heat.
You see this, Isabel? Our horse led us home.
The valley knew her name now, Vieja, the mare who walked west and brought water back. She lived 3 more years, drinking from the spring she had remembered as a foal. And when the first rain finally came, the valley already green, they knew it had begun with a half-blind horse and a man who followed. 3 years later, Vieja grazed in the deep grass with the ease of a much younger animal. Stephen sat on a rock by the spring, watching the children chase each other through the water.
That morning, I almost pulled the trigger. Instead, she lifted her head and walked west.
He remembered the dust, the empty pail, and the impossible walk that had given them back their lives.
You won't be forgotten, old girl. Not even when we're both dust.
She exhaled, her breath warm against his palm, and closed her good eye. The photograph of the 3 of them, man, boy, horse, stood on the table inside, facing the spring. A baby's laugh floated up from the valley, and the sound was like the first notes of a song no one thought they'd hear again.
We are all standing on ground she gave back to us.
He placed his hand on her neck, and the old mare's blind side turned toward the setting sun, as if she could still see it.